If you've ever thought about training to become a psychotherapist, but you don't have any relevant experience, then the first major step of your journey may be to complete a foundation course in counselling and psychotherapy. This is a one-year course that aims to equip you with the base of knowledge and experience required to go on to do the 4-year professional training, and also to give you time to think about whether or not this is a good fit for you before you invest a huge amount of time, money, and energy into the project. Having recently completed the foundation year at CCPE myself, today I'll be giving you an overview of everything that was involved, from the course structure through to theory and practical skills that we learn, the challenges, and also some of the amazing benefits of doing the training. One of my favourite aspects of the course were the classroom-based experiential exercises that are designed to help us begin to map our internal landscape and to challenge us to discover things about ourselves that we didn't know before. Developing self-awareness and our relational capacity really lies at the heart of the training at CCPE, and this is something I hadn't fully appreciated before I began. I thought it was all going to be about learning the psychological theory and the practical skills, but it turned out that this journey of self-development was a third major component of the course. In an upcoming video, I'll be showing 3 of my favourite experiential exercises from the foundation year, as well as what I learned about myself by doing them. But to give you an idea of what these involved, today I'll be sharing one exercise that I found to be particularly intriguing that we did right at the beginning of the year. So starting with an overview of the course structure, the year is split into 3 10-week teaching terms, January to March, April to June, and September to November, with a 3-week break around Easter time and a longer 11-week break in the summer. During term time, we attended one 2-hour midweek evening session from 6:30 until 8:30. In my case, this was on a Tuesday, and the requirement was that we maintained an 80% attendance record in order to complete the year. Second, there were 5 full weekend seminars over the course of the year. These ran from 10 till 5 on Saturday and Sunday, and this gave us time to explore subjects at far greater depth and do much of the experiential work that I mentioned before. Third, there were the written assignments, and these came in the form of 2 4,000-word essays, with the first being due in May and the second being due at the end of the year in November. Fourth was the core reading of the course to supplement what we were learning in the classroom and also to support the essays. Fifth is that you are required to be in personal therapy for the duration of the foundation year. This can be in person or online. This isn't a requirement at every training institution, but at CCPE it is an integral part of the training process, and the requirement is that over the course of the year you complete 40 therapy hours. Finally, there were 2 optional online seminars. The first of these was critical writing to support students with their essays, and the second was a look ahead to the relational work placements that begin on the diploma for those who are planning to continue on. The evening sessions would typically begin with a grounding exercise, like a guided meditation, that I personally found very helpful as a way to transition out of work mode, wind down the nervous system, and arrive in a more calm and receptive place for the evening ahead. The session would then be a blend of lecture, experiential work, and so-called triad work, where we would practice our counselling skills in groups of 3, with one person playing the role of the therapist, one person playing the role of the client, and the third person playing the role of the witness who would observe the exchange. Lecture topics included different approaches to psychotherapy, for example, psychodynamic, person-centred, existential, and transpersonal, covering some of the history and then examining the central beliefs and limitations of each one. We also explored issues or themes that may arise in therapy, such as loss and grief, myth and symbolism, and man's search for meaning. There were lectures on therapeutic skills such as attentive listening, communicating empathy, how to build a therapeutic relationship, how to work through difficult situations, as well as lectures on things like the ethics of practice and how to work with the diverse range of beliefs and worldviews that clients may bring. Moving on now to the weekend seminars, there were 5 of these over the course of the year, beginning with an introductory weekend right at the start. We then had one on group dynamics, one on creativity, one on family, and then a fundamental skills weekend at the end where we had the chance to put everything we'd learned into practice and have a go at holding a full-length 50-minute session with one of our peers. Perhaps a useful comparison for the weekends is it's a bit like going on a 2-day retreat. This idea of embarking on an experiential journey of personal growth and discovery with a group of people is certainly comparable to the weekend seminars at CCPE. To give you a flavour of the experiential exercises involved at the weekends, my favourite exercise from the introductory weekend on the foundation year began with us being given a piece of paper each with the instruction to cut out eye holes that would make it into a mask. We were then provided an assortment of pens and asked to, on one side of the mask, graphically represent our persona. And by that they meant, who do you think you present to the world and who do you think the world sees when they look at you? The only other instruction given was to include a short word or phrase on the front of the mask that you thought captured or really spoke to the essence of what you had drawn. Once we'd all finished, we were invited to walk around the room with our masks over our faces and meet each other as our personas, communicating only with the short phrase or word that we'd included on the front. With such a wide brief and in a diverse room full of people from different backgrounds, each with their own personal story and artistic vision, the results were incredibly varied, and this inspired a huge amount of curiosity in me. What was also very striking about this moment was how low the energy in the room was and how unhappy everyone seemed to be interacting as their persona. After this, we split off into groups of 3 and had a go at helping someone else in our group explore why it was they'd represented their persona in the way that they had and what it meant to them, just by asking open questions and being genuinely curious. The next step of the exercise was to flip our masks around and to, on the reverse side, graphically represent our true self. That is, who is the person we feel we truly are beneath the persona that perhaps the world doesn't often get to see. And then also to include a new word or short phrase that captured or spoke to the essence of the true self. We then went round the room again and met each other as our true selves, and I'm sure you can imagine that the difference in the energy was absolutely extraordinary, before breaking off into groups of 3 again to explore the meaning behind what we had drawn. What was fascinating about this exercise was first to discover how you thought about yourself in terms of those 2 levels of persona and true self, and then to acknowledge the disparity between the 2 and think about why it was that they weren't more closely aligned. One of the big ideas attributed to person-centered therapy is that of congruence, and that's pointing to this idea that how we present and behave in the world is an authentic representation of who we think we are and what we believe. This exercise not only highlighted the level of incongruence in our own lives, but also how unsatisfied people tend to be living too much through their persona, and how living in a truly authentic way is universally challenging for people. As therapists, we have the opportunity to help our clients lead a more authentic life in this regard. The theory is that by modelling a high level of congruence in ourselves, we create the conditions for the client to change. Moving on now to the essays, the first of these was the theory essay, where we were asked to compare and contrast 3 different approaches to psychotherapy: psychodynamic, person-centered, and the transpersonal approach. I found this to be particularly useful to help me ground my understanding of the fundamental principles that define the different approaches, as well as those that unite them. The second essay was a personal reflective essay, where we were asked to reflect on our journey over the course of the foundation year, as well as our journey in one-to-one personal therapy. This was a really fascinating and valuable experience, as it invited in-depth exploration of our inner journey over the course of the year. What were the significant events? What had we learned? And how had we grown as therapists? So moving on now to the reading, here are the 6 books that I read over the course of the foundation year. All of these were on the recommended reading list, with the exception of Letting Go by David Hawkins, which incidentally turned out to be my favourite of the books that I read. 3 of these were more explicitly related to the essays, Carl Jung being a founding father of psychodynamic psychotherapy, Carl Rogers on person-centered therapy, and Toward a Psychology of Awakening being a good introduction to the transpersonal approach. Next, I wanted to highlight 3 potential challenges of the training that may or may not arise for you over the course of a foundation year. The first of these is the risk of bringing personal issues into the classroom. You will be given space to talk about things that are going on for you, and while we are always advised to exercise caution in terms of what we bring, it may still be that some stuff gets brought up. Things that you're currently struggling with or difficult experiences from your past, and going back into that feeling can be challenging for people. The second is that there may be conflict in the group over the course of the year, and this can be difficult to sit with sometimes. As with any group, there are different personalities and energies, and this can lead to conflict, which may be distressing to witness. The final challenge to highlight is that because the foundation year is a significant investment in terms of time and energy, you may find it difficult to balance the course with your other personal and professional commitments. As well as your in-person commitments, you have to carve out time to do the essays, for example, and this may put a strain on things elsewhere and become a cause of stress, particularly as deadlines approach. Finally, I want to touch on 3 amazing benefits of doing the training, with the first of these being the incredible new relationships that you form with colleagues. It is such a privilege to be able to collaborate with people in the way that you do on a course like this, with so much courage and vulnerability and honesty on display that you rarely come into contact with in normal life. and getting to know people in that spirit naturally leads to some really wonderful and unexpected new friendships. The second great benefit of doing the foundation course is the experiential work that you do. I was challenged to learn so much about myself that I would never have thought about before. I mentioned the persona exercise earlier, but that really is just one small example of everything else that we did. In an upcoming video, I'll be sharing 3 more of those, so do subscribe if you'd like to hear about them. Some of the things I came to realize about myself by doing the experiential work were catalysts for me taking positive action in my life that I maybe wouldn't have otherwise. And so much like therapy, doing the course can really help to accelerate that type of positive change. The final benefit of doing the foundation course was that it gave me a lot more clarity around the profession and gave me the opportunity to think about whether or not this was going to be the right fit for me and whether CCPE was going to be the right place for me to train before I made the big commitment to doing 4 years of professional training there. So that is everything for today's video. I really hope that was helpful for people and anyone considering training in the future. Subscribe for more content on becoming a therapist. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.